WSBT-22 News at midday.
Good afternoon, I'm Bob Montgomery, and we are continuing our team coverage of the passing of Father Theodore Hesburgh at the University of Notre Dame. The President Emeritus was 97 years old, and the tributes are beginning to pour in from far and wide. First, we turn to WSBT-22's Kelly Stubzinski, who is live on campus, where the current university president just gave his sometimes emotional thoughts about the passing of Father Ted.
Bob, a very emotional Father Jenkins said Notre Dame lost a piece of its heart last night, but Father Ted lives on at Notre Dame and in the millions of lives he touched around the world. Jenkins also spoke about the fact that Father Hesburgh's death did not come as a surprise. He says his mentor and advisor, who lost his sight due to macular degeneration, had his good days and bad days, celebrated Mass daily, had a cigar daily, and was still very engaged. He even said Mass yesterday morning at 11:30. In the past week, though, Father Hesburgh appeared to slow down. Father Jenkins says Father Ted was not going into the office to work and was talking with people yesterday, then had trouble breathing last night, shortly after he passed away. And that is when students took to social media to remember Father Ted and decided to meet at the grotto on campus to pray. Notre Dame students also set up a tribute there to a man who did so much for this campus, spelling out his name in candles. By 1 a.m., the university says more than 200 students gathered at the grotto to share memories, cry, and pray together. Here's some of what Father Jenkins shared a short time ago about why Father Hesburgh's relationship with the students was so important.
And I always looked up to him. When I became president, he became really a mentor, an advisor, a confidant in so many ways, and I had many conversations with him. I remember one of the things he said that's always stayed with me is, you know, stay close to the students. I mean, he was loved by and he loved our students.
Obviously very difficult for him to say those words. Father Jenkins also spoke about the close relationship his own mother had with Father Ted, and that was also extremely difficult for him to talk about. You will hear more of that part of what he had to say coming up on WSBT-22 News at 5. Bob?
Kelly, thanks very much. Community leaders are offering their condolences as well on Father Ted's passing. South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg released a statement saying, in part, Father Ted Hesburgh was an extraordinary leader. He touched countless lives, including mine, with his intellect, faith, and decency. He will be remembered for his visionary understanding of how to build a world-class university and also for his great courage in historic moments like the Civil Rights Movement. And U.S. Representative Jackie Walorski from North Central Indiana says the news of Father Hesburgh's passing is a profound loss, not only for our community, but also for the entire country. Today, we mourn a great man, a beloved priest, and one of the most influential leaders in higher education. I send my heartfelt condolences to his family and the entire Notre Dame community. And in the meantime, U.S. Senator Joe Donnelly, who attended the University of Notre Dame as a student, says Father Hesburgh was like a second father.
And when I think of the two giants in my life, it's my dad and Father Hesburgh. That here was someone who had dinner with presidents and then would come home to Notre Dame, and at 2 a.m. at night you'd see his light on in his little dorm room, and students would come up to talk to him about challenges they had.
Now, if you asked him, Father Ted would tell you, first and foremost, he was a priest who gave himself to Notre Dame and the world, made both better places. It began June 24th, 1943. Father Theodore Hesburgh, a Notre Dame graduate, became an ordained priest at the university. And nothing, not even being awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in 2000, would top that.
You might say this is the happiest day of my life, but it really isn't. The happiest day of my life was when I was ordained a Catholic priest.
It was the beginning of an extraordinary life that would earn him the Medal of Freedom, 16 presidential appointments, 150 honorary degrees, and take him all around the world. But he never wanted more than to be a priest and say Mass, which he did every day.
I even remember saying Mass on the desk of the head communist at the communist headquarters in Moscow, of all places.
His contributions are well documented. He traveled extensively working for peace in troubled parts of the world, from Cambodia, Kosovo, and the Middle East, the cradle of Christianity and chaos. His message always the same.
Peace is the opus justitiae, it's the work of justice. And without justice, there will be no peace.
And he lived that belief throughout his life. His work for social justice and peace began in this country. He was one of the founding members of the Civil Rights Commission created in 1957. His contributions helped create the Civil Rights Act of 1964. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Chicago when that city's leadership would not. But always, his efforts were guided by his faith.
I want people to realize that in serving the poor, they're serving the Lord, and that there's nothing we can do in life more noble than serving the Lord. And the Lord is with us and the poor.
Father Ted had an impact around the world, but his heart was always at Notre Dame. He was just 35 years old in 1952 when he became the university's 15th president, and his work there is legendary. He launched the university onto the national stage, raised admission standards, increased the number of students, the operating budget, and the endowment. Perhaps the two biggest achievements, though, under Hesburgh's leadership, control of the university was turned over to a predominantly lay board of trustees.
I think we're a much stronger university today than before we went into lay control.
And women were admitted.
Here you have a school named after a woman with no women.
He began the tradition of inviting newly elected presidents to give the university's commencement address, and they came. Dwight Eisenhower, Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford, though not for commencement, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. And he wore his patriotism proudly.
You could be born in a Hottentot in the middle of a small country and never had a chance to do things. I thank God for America.
Hesburgh served 5 popes and admitted he could have gone higher in the Catholic Church, but he always only wanted to be a priest. And the day he was ordained, he knew his parish would be the world.
I was filled with the conviction that I wasn't being ordained for myself. I was an instrument, hopefully in the hand of God. And that I wasn't to think that I simply belonged to Catholics. I belonged to every human being. As the poet Terence said so well, Nil humano mihi alienum. Nothing human is alien to me, nor should it be.
And as he looked ahead to his own death, Father Hesburgh had just one wish.
That I continue to say Mass every day the rest of my priestly life and are able to offer Mass the day I die. It'd be a great way to leave the earth.
And you know what? He did. Father Hesburgh celebrated Mass yesterday. 12 hours later, he passed away. Hesburgh lived his life on one basic principle. You don't make decisions because they're easy. You make the right decisions because they're the right thing to do. He said he hoped he got them right most of the time. Now, this is what we know about funeral arrangements for Father Ted. At noon Tuesday, there will be a visitation that will be open to the public at the Basilica of the Sacred Heart. It will end at 6 o'clock. That will be followed by a wake service the same evening at 7:30, also at the Basilica. That will be invitation only. Then the visitation will reopen to the public at 9 o'clock and will remain open through the night until 10 a.m. Wednesday morning. The funeral Mass will be Wednesday, March 4th at 2 o'clock at the Basilica. That also is invitation only. Now, following the funeral, there will be a procession. He'll be buried at Holy Cross Community Cemetery. Wednesday night, there will be a more public tribute at the Joy Center at 7:30. You will need a ticket for that event, but tickets will be free. Now, we're expecting to learn this afternoon how those tickets will be distributed.